Hello and welcome back to another weathering tutorial. In this video we're going to be taking a look at weathering this tippler wagon and creating some bare metal and rust effects using some very simple techniques and products. If you're quite new to weathering or you've recently picked up an airbrush and you don't know where to start, then this weathering video is going to help you along the way and will give you some simple step-by-step techniques to follow, and you too will be able to create the wagon that you see here. So let's not waste any time and let's get started. Okay, so to start off with, we're going to be wanting to use the Wws weathering powders and some Vallejo Air rust colours, which is just the orange rust and the light rust. To start off with, we want to get mixing the weathering powder, and for that I'm just using some Humber Roll Satin Coat, which is a solvent based varnish. This has been thinned down slightly, so I've kind of got it roughly about 50-50 with a bit of enamel thinners. With the weathering powders, what we want to do is just get that mixed into the varnish, and you want to aim for something which is relatively thick but not too thick that it's almost like a paste. Again, just keep mixing up until you've got the consistency right, so just adding a little bit of more powder here as it was still a little bit too thin. The idea of this is that once we start applying this to the wagon, we actually want to kind of make this a very light stipple effect, so it doesn't necessarily matter how you get it into the interior of the wagon, so pretty much just brush it all in, get it over every part of the interior. And of course, once we've got that inside, we just move the weathering powders around, or the paint mixture, until you've got a nice sort of effect where it's just not so much in the way of brush marks. You want a nice sort of stippled random effect inside. Straight away with the same mixture, going to do exactly the same on the outside of the body sides. Again, just apply it over every panel. You can kind of avoid getting them over things like the wagon numbers or any decals that are actually on the wagon, but again, it doesn't necessarily make a difference. We can clean those off. And again, what you want to try and aim to do is make sure that the texture is not too thick, as once this dries, it does dry pretty solid and it is difficult to get off, so just keep on stippling until you're happy with the texture that's on the wagon. Once that's done, we're going to set that aside and leave it to dry for about sort of 6 hours. So as mentioned before, we're going to be using the two Vallejo colours here, which is the orange rust and the light rust. Starting off with the orange rust, we're going to put some of that into the airbrush, and we're going to aim for just a reasonable light coverage, enough so you can actually see that the colours there, and there's no particular pattern to this at all. It's just a case of get it in there, regardless of what it looks like, it makes no difference. And there we go, so that's the interior done. And again, what we're going to do is just continue on the outside of the wagon with that orange rust colour. Again, it makes very little difference if you do go over the any wagon numbers and lettering and stuff on it. It makes no difference, so it does add to the effect and kind of blends everything in. So again, just as I say, a nice light covering over the whole of the wagon. And I do also as well just go down into the underframes with this colour as well. Now once we've done with the orange rust, we're going to move into the light rust colour, and again just going to build up another layer of the rust colour over the top of the weathering powders and the previous orange one. Again, there's just no pattern that we're going for here, just a nice random effect of colour. Just get it all mixed up nicely, and this will start adding to the rust effects that we're going to create shortly. Again, with this colour you can still go underneath all the underframes. And again, just keep on going until you're happy with the colours and tones. Okay, so for the next steps you want to grab yourself some really old battered beaten up paintbrushes, and these need to be relatively stiff, so the stiffer the brush the better. What we're going to do now is we're going to get inside all areas where we've done this weathering effect and really scrub down through the layers. There's no solutions here, there's no thinners used, you just use that stiff brush and it'll break through the surface of the paint and start bringing out the weathering powders. Try and stick to a I suppose prototypical sort of pattern that the interior of the wagon would have, so you know, vertical streaks, and trying to keep within inside, you know, where typically panel lines would be, not to make it look too random, otherwise it won't look as right as it should. But as you can see, that's exactly what it does. You end up with that absolutely cracking sheen of I suppose bare metal, and with the rust effects of from the paint that we applied sort of blending in nicely around it. If there are any little lumps that have accumulated into any nooks and crannies, a little bit of a hard scrub, you might be able to knock those off as well. And again, what we're going to do is just continue the progress straight on the outside of the wagon, doing exactly the same as we did with the interior. Again, just sticking with sort of vertical streaks, and that will give you the more sort of prototypical look. You can really see just how well that shines up nicely. It's the same with things like the wagon lettering that we got here. Again, it all sort of blends in nicely, so it didn't matter whether you got a little bit of weathering powder over it or even some of the rust colour paint, so it all blends in nicely together and sort of fits in nicely. Love it, absolutely love that sheen. Something good about it, you know, it's sort of such a simple method, and I think really the effects that you can get from this I think are probably much endless. I'm going to continue working with this weathering powder and see what else I can actually get from it, because it's certainly something which I think is a bit of a groundbreaker, certainly one of the best weathering powders I've come across in a long time. As I mentioned, it's all kind of simple methods. There's nothing really difficult here, and I think many people who are new to weathering could really give this a go and get such a great result, as you can see here. Pleasing to the eye, definitely. So under frame detailing, just to finish the wagon off, 3 simple colours: dark earth, we're also using the pale blue grey, and NATO black. They're the only 3 colours I think really that we need. Starting off with the dark earth, we're just going to attack obviously all the underframes and things with the wheels as long as they're free moving enough, you can just use the air from the airbrush to give those a spin to cover all areas of the wheels without having to remove them. A nice even pass, making sure that you covered all aspects of the wagon underneath and that there's no exposed black areas. Once we're done with the dark earth colour, what we're going to do then is clean out the airbrush and remove all the brown colour, and then we're going to go straight into the pale blue grey. And what we want to try and do here is just literally a couple of very light passes from a distance, just to hit that underframe, and what it'll do is it'll pick out all the detail and highlight all the edges. And I think the grey is a must-have colour, I think, on underframes. It makes a massive difference. So you can just see there just how much it sort of highlights some of the detail. Then straight into the NATO black once the airbrush was cleaned out. And again, we're just going to focus on very small areas of things like axle boxes and anywhere where there would be some oil, certainly just to pick up and just highlight the detail a little bit further. And there we go. So that was an introduction to you guys to the WWS metallic weathering powder, which I think, as I mentioned in the video, is certainly up there as one of my favourite products now to use. And I'm really going to take this up another level or two from what you've seen in this video. But hopefully you've taken some tips from this, and it really does give you guys a bit of inspiration to have a go at yourself, because I think really, in terms of the skill level on this, I think this is quite a low down one. And I think really that most people, if you've recently picked up an airbrush and you're not confident in using it, then I think really this is one for you guys to really give a go. So you can create some great effects from what you've seen me do on this one. So simple yet effective. But anyway, gonna leave the video there, and hopefully I'll catch you all in again pretty soon in another weathering tutorial. And as always, if you've got comments, drop them down in the comment section. Look forward to reading them. And until next time, see you all again soon.